Welcome to the Transformative Principal podcast, where we learn how to be an amazing educational leader. I am your host, Jethro Jones. Are you ready to be a transformative principal? I'm looking for about 10 people who are ready to do what it takes to lead with integrity, find balance, and take your school to the next level. If you're looking to improve your leadership in a measurable way, go to transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind to see if you qualify to join a group of like-minded people who are ready to be the best principals in the country. With summer coming up, we principals have a unique opportunity to get a lot of work done with no students and few teachers. If you want to learn a goal-setting program that makes your goals come to life, go to transformativeprincipal.org and sign up for the email newsletter and get my goal-setting framework that helps me accomplish a lot in a little bit of time. Welcome to Transformative Principal, where we interview great educational leaders to help you become the best leader that you can. Today, I am grateful to be talking with Brad Spirrison of Participate Learning, participate.com. Somebody told me about this cool way to do chats, and I checked it out, and then I connected with him and said, you need to come be on the podcast because what you're doing over at participate.com is awesome. And Brad, that's a brief introduction. Is there anything else that you want to throw in there?
No, well, I very much appreciate being here. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot more about Participate, learn about me throughout the conversation. Participate is a brand, has been around since October, but previously we were known as Apple Learning and originally known as Apple-licious. So many of your listeners may have enjoyed a number of things that we've done over the years. And I'm really thrilled to be speaking with you about Participate Chats and everything else that we're doing in the realm of digital resource discovery, curation, and collaboration.
Yeah, so very cool. So I spoke about a very small part of what you do, which is the Participate Chats. And that was what really got me pulled in to learn more about you and your company. And what was cool was I've been participating in chats for a while. And for a time, I kind of backed off of doing chats, partly because I moved to Alaska and the time frame is wonky. And so I'm usually busy with school when most chats are going on. But the second reason was that it was just so hard for me to pay attention and follow along with things that it became overwhelming. And I know for other people that has been an issue as well. And the Participate Chats for Twitter that you do makes it so that it's organized and things stay in a good flow. Can you talk a little bit about why you started Participate Chats specifically and what your goal is for that?
Sure thing. So as you know, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, any given day or really evening, there are 30, 40, 50 more, pretty serious regimented Twitter conversations, anything from educators in Alaska to first grade teachers to science to learning disabilities. And I think what we've seen over the last, really 5-6 years, EdChat and SatChat and some of the early ones is, Twitter obviously is a phenomenal way to meet new people and expand your personal learning network and, really get involved with conversations that you otherwise weren't really able to. That's the notion of Twitter. In terms of having conversations, particularly live conversations in a chat format, I think there's evidence that there's a really strong demand, but we didn't really think that chats, after participating in a number of them ourselves and being asked to moderate and everything else, were the best way to actually have a conversation, particularly if your conversation is around resources, digital resources. Should I be using these videos or websites or OER or apps for, planning this unit or everything else? And you have a chat, but there's a lot of noise, a lot of flurries, a lot of trying to figure out what question you're on. And, people share this link, but then you go back to Twitter or TweetDeck or whatever. And it's really hard to harness all of the contributions and insight that, so many smart people are doing when they're devoting their time to chats or following along. So we thought that there was a way to frankly chat differently on Twitter and really through other social platforms. I mean, a different, more productive way to have conversations. So we created, you can find it at participate.com/chats. I'll get to other things that Participate does as well. For starters, if you're trying to find a chat that interests you, we have a directory, a calendar grid that points you based on whatever time zone you're in and gives you times and dates of live chats happening, hundreds of them that we have listed. And you then say, I want to go into fourth chat on Monday nights for fourth grade teachers, as an example. And you go to that page. You can do at that page everything that you could do with any other Twitter client. You could obviously follow along to see what people are talking about. You could tweet, you could reply, you can forward. You have real-time notifications. But, a couple of key differentiators that you can only get with us is a feed of all of the resources that are shared in a given chat, including the ability to create a collection of those resources and annotate and rearrange and, share with your colleagues, with your school, with your personal learning network. We also have a way, particularly useful for any chat that is structured around I'll call it traditional, even though a lot of this technology is only years old, Q1A1 format, right? So you're on, let's say, Twitter or TweetDeck, and the moderator asks a question, and then sometimes that question is being retweeted, and you're answering, and you do the A1 around the answer. And I found it hard to follow, and I've been not only in education but in technology and media for close to 20 years now, and it was tough for me to really understand. Okay, what question am I on? Who am I trying? So we're trying to slow down the conversation and make it more orderly in terms of there's a new column. We know the moderator. Moderator asks a question. That question is persistent while it's being asked. And all of the answers associated with that question follow in line beneath that. So you have the option of seeing things in the raw feed. You have the option of a Q&A environment. You can see all the resources that are being shared, as well as all the participants and who the moderators are in real time, all on one page, which we think is really useful not only for the hardcores like you, me, and a lot of your listeners, but new teachers that might think that Twitter is really a way to follow what the Kardashians are doing, or don't really associate Twitter with being as powerful of a tool as it is for professional development, for resource discovery, for collaboration, and giving them a much easier way to enter into this new world. And oh, by the way, when the chat is over, we make it really easy to create a collection of every resource that was shared, as well as a transcript in either Q&A or live feed format. So if you missed a conversation or want to relive it, you could do it right there in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. And let's talk about, before you get there though, because that is really amazing, just the actual what you're doing during the chat is definitely worth participating in. And then when you add in these other features that make it what you can do after the chat, that's where I think some real power comes in. So for me, just using Participate for chats has been so much better. I used to tell everybody you need to use TweetDeck. That's the only way you're going to be able to keep track. Now I'm telling everybody you should only use Participate because it makes it so much easier to be able to see what is going on. And then after the fact, there's more that you can do. So one of the cool things that you can do is you can create a collection. I'll let you talk a little bit about what those are, but you can create a time period based selection. So at the end of the 60 minutes, you say, create a collection from everything that was just shared in the last 60 minutes. And that's like magic to me. So that's awesome. Talk about those collections and how powerful those are.
Sure. And this is one component of collections. I'll talk about chat collections, and then we'll get to other ways you can make collections with Participate Learning. So yeah, that's, so most chats last an hour, some a half hour, and, there's give or take before and after. And in the average hour chat, there are probably 25 to 50 significant and useful resources. Again, whether they're websites or videos or links to blog posts that you should explore, or OER resources, whatever the case may be. Someone's tweeting and referencing, here's a great tool for this particular conversation on teaching students with dyslexia, or formative assessment, or numeracy, whatever the case may be, right? So a chat is typically involved in revolving around a certain theme. And you have, dozens, if not hundreds of teachers sharing things in that period of time. And what we've done with the resource feed and then the ability to create a collection from everything shared in that chat in that time period is make it really easy to then go back and say, okay, here is just a page of all of the resources that were shared in that conversation. On that page, if there are resources that are not relevant or to you, you can quickly delete and clean out the noise. You could annotate and write descriptions as to how you might want to use this resource in your classroom. You can invite others. You could add other resources. You might be just wrapping up a chat on global learning, and you have other resources that you want to include to that collection that you could add and upload, or you can even invite other collaborators, other teachers to add their own picks. So what we're doing again is harnessing all of the value and the insight from a chat and making it really easy to go back and see what was shared, use what was shared, and share it with others.
Yeah, it's such a powerful way to keep track of all that stuff and keep it organized. What are some of the things that you've seen people do with these chats that are remarkable to you? How have you seen your tool being used to help other people participate in those chats more beneficially?
So a couple of different ways. And we're seeing schools and districts come to us and ask, they have a hashtag. It might be around a weekly chat that they do, combined with an initiative that they have that is devoted to, onboarding teachers new to Twitter, as well as kind of developing an easier way to curate all of these resources that we're discussing. So there's a district, the Billings, Montana school district, a couple of weeks ago started essentially like a 6-week chat. So every Tuesday at, I think, 7:00 Mountain Time, 100 plus teachers from the district get together and they have a chat and they start sharing resources. But in between those periods, it's also a slow chat, so to speak. So it's like having a dial tone, this always on conversation that TweetDeck and Twitter is not really constructed, not just because of the resources, but, it's hard to kind of follow along in bursts of, an hour sprint and then, 6-7 days of, a lot of meaningful conversation, but it's hard to really capture into one setting and kind of organize. So we're seeing increasingly schools using this as a platform to get more people involved in Twitter, make it easier to have a wider set of resources being shared internally, or at least to whoever wants to refer to that hashtag. And, we're seeing there's a lot of chats devoted to teachers kind of new to Twitter and not really knowing where to begin. And we are serving as a great onboarding mechanism where, you could show up to a website. Yes, you need to have a Twitter account and a free Participate Learning account, which takes seconds, but it's so much easier to kind of introduce people because they could see the conversation in sequential form. And we're really delighted to not only be a platform for power users, but also is a way to, the 90% of other teachers out there in the world that haven't understood the power of Twitter, and really be a great showcase that all of that power and potential.
Yeah, that's a really neat thing that you can be a brand new user and get benefit, or you can be an experienced user and get benefit also. Thank you so much for listening. I learn a ton from doing this podcast, and I know you do too. If you'd like to support me in this, you can become a patron through Patreon, and that would mean the world to me. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, but anyone who supports me for $5 a month or more will get the Transformative Principal members only feed, which releases the interviews as I record them rather than on a weekly schedule. If you've binge listened to any of the past episodes of this podcast, this is for you, and I know you're going to love it. So you're going to learn as quickly as I learn, and I thank you for supporting me. To become a patron, just go to transformativeprincipal.org, and on the right-hand side, there'll be a little button that says Become a Patron. You can click on that and support me. Thank you so much for your support. So let's talk a little bit about how this is, as far as I have been able to tell, this is only focused on education. So you're not doing this for every chat out there, but there are plenty of education-focused people that are creating, talking about things, and you're just focused on education. Is that right?
Correct. Primarily pre-K through 12 education, special education, standardized testing is our sweet spot. And this is really, when we started Apple Learning 3 years ago, and Participate Learning is an extension of that. Our first mission was, before we even got into chats or curation or collaboration, was to work with teachers, experts that we would pay because they were the most knowledgeable people in their building and in their regions, to first identify the best of the best resources, for every grade level across multiple platforms, whether it's web, video, iOS, Android, Chrome, OER, you name it. And, before we even got into that stuff, we developed thousands and thousands of reviews with pretty specific, report cards based on evaluation rubrics that we developed alongside, some friends of ours that are really influential teachers. Folks on Twitter, Lucy Gray, who goes by LMNS, Monica Burns, Class Tech Tips, Julene Reed, Keith George, a lot of teachers that we worked with early on to really identify what constitutes a powerful digital resource for learning, write about it within the context of every grade level. So we might review the same resource multiple times, but in one case it could be for, second grade numeracy, and another case it could be for fourth grade fractions or whatever the case may be. We had a very large database in which we then made it possible for anyone to come to the website, Apple Learning, now participate.com, and you could do so there and search via natural language keyword or browse by grade level, by subject, by Common Core standard. Every resource that we reviewed, we tagged for Common Core. So this is an extremely long way of answering, yes, we are exclusive to education, but we also, in addition to all the chat functionality that we discussed, have this base where if you're looking for a resource for a particular subject, we are a great way to find that and show you why the teachers that we work with think it's important and are completely transparent in our evaluation process.
Well, good. You answered my next question also. Very good job. I was going to ask you to talk more about how you determine that things are good. And basically, if I understood you right, you have expert teachers who are the ones who are saying, yes, this is good, and putting their seal of approval on it with a transparent process to be able to do that.
Yeah, we show our work, so our evaluation rubric is predicated on educational content and efficacy, features and production value, and usability. And for each resource that we have expertly reviewed, we show the report card. We show why we score things in a given way. And we think that's critical because, as we all know, a lot of reviews are done by developers, or they're done by, if you don't know where the review comes from or the source, it's hard to trust how valid the review is. And we obviously thought it was essential to require that type of context and transparency.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. So I just picked a person at random, Megan Samarin, and looked at all the stuff that she has, all the collections she has and the reviews that she's left on different things. And, I just think that that's a great way to say, here's a real person, here's what they find valuable. And then, as you said, this is even bigger than that this can be a social network of sorts of, you can go in and follow these people and follow their collections and things like that. Talk a little bit about the idea of this as a social network.
Sure. So obviously making it easier to participate in Twitter, has a lot of characteristics of a social network. And so you see chats, and, I talked about search and all the resources that we have available, not just picked by experts that we've paid over the years to identify, but also anybody can come to participate, quickly create a profile and start collecting and making collections based on their own interests, right? So we wanted to make sure that we had a base of every grade level and, all of the major Common Core and national standards. But beyond that, we have a collection creation component where anyone can come, create a profile, start collecting either from resources that they find to participate or resources that they add via a URL, and really any URL addressable resource we can accommodate, or files that they upload. And your profile is predicated on what you say about yourself, as well as the types of collections that you make. And then the real social component is allowing you to collaborate with other educators as you're building your collection. So I talked about the collection that comes from a Twitter chat. You could sit down and create a collection on the science behind roller coasters or Eleanor Roosevelt or whatever the case may be. And you might have half a dozen resources in mind, and you create an introduction and you talk about why these are important. But you know that someone that you either met in a chat or a conference or down the hall from you is really, really an expert in that subject area. You can very simply, if they're on Participate right now, you can basically click a tab that says Collaborate and find them pretty quickly. Or if they're not, you can send them an email, just as you would send an email to somebody that you invite into a Google document, and instantly they can start sharing resources and helping you build your collections. And that's not limited to one person. That could be limited, that could be dozens and dozens of people. We see a lot of this crowdsourced at conferences, and that component of collaborating around discovering and the use of resources within an educational setting is what our mission is, and marrying that with what's happening in Twitter, and of course making it easier to do so on Participate than on Twitter is how we are going about doing that.
Yeah, very cool. There's so much in there already, and you said that Participate Learning's only been around since October, right?
Yes, sir. And it was, but a lot of the work was done with Appo Learning, which started in 2013. But yes, so Participate itself launched in October of 2015.
Yeah, so it's just very deep. There's so much in there that you can go and find. So, the other day I was looking for something about how do we get our kids to meet the speaking and listening standards in the new core standards, and was able to find some apps and resources that could help with that. And some of them I already knew about, but it was very easy for me to add this collection, and then it's easy to share those resources with your teacher so that I don't have to know all of them or do all of them, but I can just start to vet something and say, well, this person that I trust believes these are good apps for this, so I can freely share these and let my teachers choose any one of those. And that kind of opportunity is really good for me, who, may not know much about certain things, but certain content areas, but I want to find someone who does know something and share those resources, not just go do a search on Twitter for speaking and listening. You could get all kinds of different things. So I like that setup there.
That's the key, right? I mean, there are, as you know, just paying so much attention to this as you do. I mean, there are so many enormously beneficial resources, particularly around current events, and science or current events, obviously, where so many great things are being shared and developed to put into context what we're seeing in the world around us, but having some sort of organizing structure, as well as a way to quickly identify who in your own personal learning network has used something, embedded something, and then having them share that with you, or following collections that they've made to kind of keep tabs on things, as well as additional resources that they add, is, a really useful way to take advantage of all of this that's happening around us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last question I ask everybody on the show is, what is one thing that a principal can do starting this week to become a transformative principal?
I think becoming a transformative principal is a kind of a everyday undertaking where there's probably more than one thing, and it's probably more every moment than every day or in any given week. I think it's obviously not only having a growth mindset, but empowering everyone in your building, teachers, students, staff members, parents, to understand that the world is changing around us. And there are different ways that we are accessing information, absorbing information, and using that information to learn. And also technology that really personalizes the learning experience and helps teachers create custom learning environments based on where their students are at any given point in time. It's really difficult. It moves pretty quickly. So the ability to take a step back and provide some kind of organizing structure in terms of where do I begin? Where do I find this stuff? Who are people that I respect that are relevant to whatever we're teaching in my building? And how can I make sure that my colleagues, my educators in my building are tapping into their insight and wisdom is a continual and perpetual undertaking that I think principals and really everyone within the realm of education needs to be thinking about all the time.
Wow. Great answer. Thank you so much, Brad, for being on the podcast. How can people get in touch with you and learn more from you? Sure.
Obviously, Participate Learning is at participate.com. You can find us at Participate Learn, LRN, at Twitter. I'm Brad at participate.com via email, and you could also follow me on Twitter at Spirrison, SPIRRISON.
Cool. Thank you so much for listening to Transformative Principal today. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, and please share it with your other principal colleagues so that they can learn from it as well. Also, if you are interested in joining the mastermind, go to transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind, and we'll be opening that up again in June of this year. So thank you so much for those who are part of that, and it's been a great learning experience so far. Transformative Principal is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators by educators. Visit edupodcastnetwork.com for more great podcasts.